So, Estelle, I think you've been with us for quite a while, I think, and so you've heard the national, the city leaders, and now the privilege of hearing practicing heads really talk a little bit about what it's like on the ground. We'd like to hand over to you to give us some final thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tim, and thanks, everyone. First of all, thanks to the BEP team and everybody who's made the conference happen. There's a time when we thought that might not be possible, but I think we've delivered a conference every year. It's really, really important to get together like this. And thanks to the team, and thanks to all the heads, teachers, school leaders who've chosen to spend some time engaging with us, because they are busy people and they have other things to do as well. I mean, two things strike me. It is a really complicated time in education at the moment. It's always complicated. It's never straightforward. But there are so many things happening at the moment and so many unknowns. And with the pandemic as well, it's as though that phrase, everything's been thrown up in the air, has been thrown up in the air. And we're just watching it come down and see how it comes together. And one thing that hasn't been mentioned, we've got a brand new ministerial team in the DFE. Whether you like it or not, our school system has been driven by some ministers with very strong personal political views for the last decade. And so that's another unknown. John Blake tried to guess what might happen. But in truth, we're at that period where things could change from the DFE, but I've no knowledge that they will, not particularly expected to do so. And we've got new leadership at the City Council. So those, hackneyed phrase like it's a key moment, pivotal moment for change, I genuinely think that is the case. But what we know about change, we never just stop and change. You never get that luxury of saying, okay, let's start from now. It's always like waves, two waves going forward and going back and collecting things and going forward. And that's how I see what's happening in Birmingham at the moment. And part of this conference is looking where the waves are in taking us forward. And just what I wanted to do, Tim, was just pick out two or three things that I thought were perhaps particularly important to stress. Look, first of all, the partnership thing. Every single speaker, no matter what else they've said, have talked about partnership. Two things about that. It's worth reminding ourselves why BEP was set up by teachers and school leaders in the city. It was set up because we had a deeply fragmented school system. And to be honest, when it was set up a decade ago, some of the people who now talk about partnership were not talking about partnership then. So Birmingham was ahead of its time. Birmingham school leaders were ahead of their time in realizing that partnerships were essential. And whatever your views about the structure of schools, and it doesn't matter, there had to be something which enabled schools to work together. But I sometimes worry about that word partnership because I now don't know anyone who's against it. And sometimes when no one's against it, it means we don't challenge what it really means. And I think I want to interchange it sometimes with that word of interdependence. Because what I think the last 10, 20, 25 years has been about is trying to find the right balance between giving schools autonomy and recognizing they're part of a system. And different politicians have played it different ways. But I think that's my stand, Tim, and I think it will be the stand of Tim, that we have to treasure schools' independence. It's brought a lot of good things, but we have to acknowledge our interdependence as well. And I think when you say it that way, in my mind, schools are both independent and interdependent. In my mind, it just spells out a little more what we're expecting from partnerships. Tim Brighouse has been mentioned. Do you remember he always used to say you have two obligations, first and foremost to your own school, but secondly, to all the other schools in Birmingham. So, partnership is a word we should use, but in BEP, I think we're really trying to have a hard edge to what that actually means. Secondly, the one thing that's not been mentioned and which is at the heart of BEP is place. You could all be in a partnership and none of it could be with anyone else in the city. Or you could all be in a partnership with some people in the city, but you could never get a chance to speak to anyone in another bit of the city. And one of the other things that underpins why BEP was set up was that place matters. We're part of a national education service. You know, our children are citizens of the world. But the fact is, they're students and pupils in this city, and you are teachers and school leaders in this city. And that makes it unique compared to doing the same in Cornwall or somewhere in Northumbria or even in Coventry or, you know, Leeds or Manchester or Birmingham. And that idea that place matters, I think, is at the heart of BEB, and that's actually not been mentioned today. So I just wanted to put that on the table. And a couple of examples where I think BEP has shown that that matters. If you look at the delivery of the careers service, which BEP is involved in delivering, that's delivered based on place because it works with local employers and it works with other local people in the area. So we are part of Birmingham as well as being part of a national education service. I think that's best summed up really in saying that somebody needs to hold the ring for education as a public good in our city. We're all, you know, whatever else we do, we've all got a bit of our job, which is trying to deliver for the present generation of children the sort of skills and knowledge and experiences we want them to have as citizens when they grow up. And it's not just us that's got a vested interest in that, all their mums and dads and friends and relatives. It's every employer, the director of every museum and gallery, everybody who works in mental health, every person who's involved in sport, every person who's involved in the arts. They all have a vested interest in that for our city. And I think that BEP tries to hold that ring for education as a public good. Just one thing, can I just challenge John Blake on one thing? Because I don't want it to go unsaid, because I don't agree with it. And I think it's at the core of the next bit of what I wanted to say, which is about our new contract. Look, I know we're not perfect as an education system. I know we've got a long way to go. And I know we're behind other countries and our cities behind other cities. If you look at some of the data, but I don't believe that we've ever been bottom at access and bottom at excellence. That's not my definition of the English and Welsh education system. We have a problem with access, with a problem with equity. We always have done. I don't feel at the top end we've got a problem with excellence. I think our problem is the gap in between. I think that the data shows you that long tail of underachievement is longer than anywhere else. But we do have excellence to look at. You know, we'd be in real trouble if there was no excellent practice, either in our city or in our country. We would be really struggling, and the notion of a school-led system wouldn't work because we'd have no role models or people to lead it. And when I look at our city, I think that shows that that's the case there. So I think, I mean, I'm not going to go over it all again, but it's a new contract for us. It's an exciting time for BEP. It's a nervous time for BEP. We've changed a lot, and all those changes that Debbie outlined are based on what we learned from the last contract. As Debbie said more than once, with no more money. So we're a bit like everyone else in education at the moment. We're trying to use the money we've got in a way that could be more effective. But that's sort of, you know, that there's something about being local, and all the data we've got nationally, it's really great and I'm a believer in it. But unless you can put that together with local knowledge so that you get the granularity about what's happening in schools, so that you know when a school is about to have a bad time, not just that it's now having a bad time, that you know if it's struggling but improving or struggling and getting even more into deep water. I don't think you have the knowledge at your fingertips to be a school-led self-improvement system. So I'm optimistic. I think we've got loads and loads of good things to build on. I'm really thrilled that our new contract really builds in good relationships, you know, the importance of good structural relationships with the City Council. They are our closest partners in delivering what we have to deliver. I've worked with both Kevin and Pauline at different points of my life. They are both excellent people, and listening to what Debbie had to say about SEND and what we're trying to do there, it has to be a time of it's possible, not impossible. I'm not going to say it's easy, and I'm not going to say that it's without fault, but none of us would have turned up today unless we'd have thought that the next few years aren't possible to get better. We won't get perfection. We will get things wrong. We will change our minds. And because of all those things and that degree of honesty and trust, I think we will make real progress. But I know none of that happens unless we've got that partnership with schools. So it is all about interdependence as well as independence. And I very much look forward to working with everybody over the coming months and years to see if we can deliver our joint endeavour, which is to raise standards and do something for our city. Hope tomorrow goes really well. Lots of breakout sessions and nitty-gritty stuff, Tim, which looks to be excellent, and I hope what people will enjoy. So I really look forward to the next 12 months until our next conference. Thank you and good luck. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, Estelle. Lifting words and yet real. And so a lot for us to do, and exciting times, and grateful for everybody who's participated today, because my guess is that if you've tuned in today, it's because ultimately you care about all the children in our city, not just the ones that happen to be in your school, and you care about those that don't get the best deal. So huge thanks to contributors, to our Commonwealth Games team, and really ask that you stay plugged into them, and to Lucy, Kevin in BEP, if you want to know more about particularly the curriculum materials that are coming that way. Thanks to John Blake. As I say, he's given us written answers to questions, and we will get those out to you in good time. And thank you right now to the BCC team and to the heads who've joined, Debbie and Paulette. So thank you to Tanya and Simon. And finally, Estelle, to you, thank you for your closing words, your encouragement, and your steadfastness in keeping us looking forward. So looking forward to tomorrow. Please encourage others to come, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks ever so much. Goodbye.